We published a video a few days ago about our suitability, affordability, value method of assessing real estate. And a lot of you guys responded that you wish that you could even afford a house at all in this market. And I understand that sentiment. I felt it. House prices are really high. So I thought I'd make this video about some ideas I have about how to get into cheap housing when house prices are so inflated, and rents. I think before I talk about that, I don't have a lot of ideas. I hope this can be the start of a discussion because a lot of you guys are pretty sharp and may have ideas to share. But before we talk about the actual ideas as far as cheap housing, I think it's important to not get into the mindset of feeling like the system's against you. You'll never be able to afford a house. It's rigged. They don't want you to own anything. It's impossible to prove that one way or another, but even if you could prove it, what difference would it make? That only deteriorates your soul if you have a victim mentality, if you feel like you'll never make it. You'll stagnate and you won't be productive. I'd rather be ignorantly optimistic than woe is me, misery. That's all the singing I'll do in this video. Overload last night, I know. But stay positive or get positive if you can. I think a lot about what I would do if I was just getting dumped into the adult world in 2024, right out of high school or college, and I had to find a house. First thing I'd do is not buy one at the interest rates that they are right now. You're really trying to swim against the tide there because you've got inflation evaporating your money away and you're paying interest. That doesn't agree with me. I try to always make sure interest is working for me, not dragging me down. And even when interest is working for me, I feel it's not keeping up with inflation. Don't let them tell you what inflation is. Go to the grocery store. Look at the houses. Just look at the houses, camera girl. You see them?
I see them.
So as far as valuable information about how to get into cheap housing, first thing's obvious. Look at your situation and try to figure out if you have an edge. An edge is really important, and it's something that only you can figure out. It's not going to be told to you on the television or the computer. It's personal to you. If you're creative enough, you might be able to find a relative in Tennessee who has a piece of property with a dilapidated second home that mama used to live in. And maybe you can work something out with them. Go through your whole situation and see if there's anything there that you might be able to make work. You're smart. And if you put your mind to it, and if you're willing to do things differently than what's promoted to you by all the screens and books in your life, you may come up with something. I feel that there are forces, don't know what they are, but there are forces that have an interest in extracting work out of you, and then the money you make from that work, the same interests or others, would like to extract that money from you, those same entities or others. So try that. You're smiling. I don't have a lot of information to share, but I am a slow talker and I go off on tangents. But that's the first idea. Do something different. Don't be embarrassed about your situation just because you're not doing what people do on the television, on the HGTV, and now I'm really preaching, and I'll step down. When we were traveling in our travel trailer, we realized that there are certain areas of the United States that are favorable for cheap living and reasonable income. An option that I want to share with you guys is that you buy a trailer or a motorhome. And I'm not talking about a Newell or Prevost. You get the Walter White special. And you buy it for $5,000 and don't finance it. Don't even think about financing it. They wouldn't let you anyway. Nobody's loaning you money on the 87 Bounder. But buy that thing and drive it somewhere that the space rent is cheap and there's still jobs in the area. And if you're committed to cheap living so you can build your wealth until there's more of an equilibrium in the housing market and the labor market, see, what I think has happened is prices have gone up, but wages haven't. You might have realized this. And wages are lagging. And there's an unequilibrium right now, There is an inequality right now, that prices have ramped up, but the wages are lagging. I think that's really good for corporations and employers. Their labor force is still cheap. They're still buying their labor at 5 years ago, sometimes 10 years ago prices. That's not an efficient market because people don't want to change their jobs, or maybe some other reasons too. Maybe they're bashful about asking for a raise. I've never asked for a raise, just outright, I want more money.
You haven't? Whoa. I have. It's hard to do.
I worked on commission. I guess I could have asked for a bigger percentage, but I'm just more bashful than you. Maybe. So the labor market is behind everything else. So if you are part of that labor market, that's really a shame for you. So we went to this town called Bodie, Arizona. I misspoke. The name of the town is not Bodie, it's Bowie, like the knife or the David. And in Bodie, Arizona, you could park your trailer there for $400 a month, electricity, water, trash, all included, $400 a month. Might have been $100 a week, and even cheaper by the month.
I think we got a discount of $90 a week.
$90 a week.
Because we paid cash.
Cash. That's cheap living. The downside of Bodie, Arizona is that it's about that big, and there's some farms, some orchards around there, but Wilcox is miles down the road if you want to work at the Safeway. So there's a big drive. That's not an ideal situation, but it's possible. We traveled a little more and we came into Deming, New Mexico. Deming, New Mexico is about the same price for your space, $100 per week, might have been $250 a month, plus electricity. You'd have to work the numbers yourself. But cheap rent in any case, and that's a town. That's a town that's active, that you could find a job in, maybe a career. But if you dig deep and have the mindset of maybe you'll sacrifice for a few years until prices get sensible again, you can stack yourself up a nice nest egg in your trailer and financially be in a good position rather than a slave to the mortgage, a slave to the trash and water bill. Deming, New Mexico would be top of my list as far as places where I could live cheap and probably still find a job that pays a decent wage. There's probably many other places even more beautiful than Deming, New Mexico, and less windy. But we've not traveled everywhere. So that's the first idea. Second idea. First idea is look through your own circumstances and see if you can come up with anything creative as far as housing. Second is buy a cheap motorhome or trailer, park it somewhere that the rent is cheap and the jobs pay well. And in the meantime, you get to see new places and you have an adventure, which is great. The cages that I put around myself are completely a phantom. I can do anything.
You'll meet some really cool people when you stay in trailer parks too. People who are doing that, like traveling, finding jobs in new places, living cheap. A lot of times they have families. The
atmosphere at a nice RV park is positive. Most of those people are on vacation. It's not perfect, but we did it, and I'm easily bothered by nature. That caveman part of me I've learned to recognize and set aside, but by nature I'm easily bothered. Third idea is similar to the motorhome idea, and that is finding a mobile home park where you can buy a fixer trailer mobile home for a cheap price where the space rent there is reasonable. If you can't stand the idea of living in a motorhome, if you have a family, certainly you can't make an excuse for living in a mobile home, single wide. That's a house. So get one of those for $10,000 that needs some work. Learn how to swing a hammer and don't get into a difficult financial situation. That's what I'd do if I was young again in this environment. My first choice would be the motorhome, and I'd have some fun. We would have some fun. You're mobile. You can do anything. Second choice would be the fixer mobile home. But that's more permanent. You're tied to that mobile home more than you're tied to your RV space. But on the plus side, if you fix the mobile home, that could be an investment that pays off. You buy it at a cheap price, you fix it, then you can sell it and make some money. What would you do if you could start right now with your adult life?
I'd probably see if I could park a trailer at a relative's house and pay him some rent.
That's a good one. We've done it twice.
Yeah. Relatives are happy to get some extra money, and they get to see you more.
Especially if you're not obnoxious. That's the key. So we're made for each other. I knew that already. If you'd like to see yesterday's video, I'll put a link to it on the screen. And if you're interested in what's next, here's tomorrow's, if it's been published yet. Thanks for watching.